Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as the Philadelphia Eagles are set to travel out west to Los Angeles to face the Los Angeles Chargers on Monday Night Football. I'm your host, LJ Rowe, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Donald. Connor, what's going on, man?
Living the life. My family is now, sickness free, so
That's
life
good.
is starting to get much better around here. And after last night, very brief Cowboys hype train is really coming to a halt, which feels much better as well. But I mean, in all honesty, I want to see Eagles wins. It doesn't matter that they are now at a 10% less than 10% chance of making the playoffs or winning the division. I want to see the Eagles get things right because we're heading to the playoffs.
Yeah. Find a way to get some momentum. Find a way to just look decent, feel positive going into the playoffs. And the schedule. I mean, I know we have the Raiders next week, but we also have the Bills in Washington. While Washington season is pretty much done, you know that with Jaden Daniels coming back, you know that they're going to want to try to ruin the Eagles season. Before we jump into this game, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHorrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live, then let us know your thoughts on the game, your prediction, players to watch, keys to the game, and if you watched Hard Knocks, let us know that. And that's where I wanted to start, Connor. Well, before we start there, as always, our Friday preview shows, we dive into the game. We give our players and keys. We'll do our Unheralded Player of the Week for the previous week in the NFL. And then we will give our predictions, which I have mine written down, which I think I wrote it down on Monday when we did our show. So maybe, I don't know if it's changed yet. We'll see. As you mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys losing to the Detroit Lions 44-30 yesterday. The Eagles' magic number to clinch the NFC East is 3. So any combination of Eagles wins and Dallas losses that equals 3 helps that out. If the Eagles win on Monday, it's down to 2. And if they beat the Vegas Raiders, it's down to 1. And if Dallas happens to lose their next game, which isn't, I think it's at home against Minnesota. I could be wrong. I know it's a home game. But I think it is Minnesota. But maybe JJ McCarthy can learn how to play quarterback for a day and help us out. But we'll see if the Eagles can help themselves out by ending this 2-game losing streak that they are on. So, Connor, did you have a chance
First of all, you're correct. The Vikings, Chargers, Commanders, and Giants are how they wrap up their schedule.
And the Commanders game is Christmas Day, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Which is 4 days. So they play the Chargers on the 21st and then the Commanders on the 25th, which is that's tight. That's 4 days. Four days off. So
another Sunday to. Is that a Sunday to Thursday?
Be Sunday to Thursday. Yep.
All right. They would have had 4 Thursday night games this year against us. Thanksgiving yesterday, and that's great. They need to stop hyping it up. I am sick and tired of them always being on primetime when they suck. All right. Did you have a chance to watch Hard Knocks?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. I mean, I've seen parts of it. From what I see, it doesn't look like there was anything groundbreaking that came out. A la, the Giants and the Saquon Barkley stuff of last year. I mean, we see, and you know what? I'm completely unsurprised by the fact that Jalen Hurts takes accountability. We know he takes accountability. Like, people are putting up that, like, Devontae Smith thing, and they're like, this is my quarterback, and blah, blah, blah. We knew from day one as a starting quarterback in the NFL that he took accountability. There was never any doubt in my mind he took accountability. It's just when we rewatch that game and we look at things, we see things a lot differently. Great, he takes accountability. I'm glad he takes accountability. But the reality with Jalen Hurts in a lot of these situations is things don't change, or the reality with this offense is things haven't been changing.
There was talk that people think that it was only done for the cameras. Do you believe that? Like him go, because obviously when we're watching the game on TV and they show him on the sideline, he's always sitting there. Now they don't show us every time. If they had a camera on him the whole time, who knows? Maybe it's probably is different. Going up to the receivers, to the offensive line and whatnot. Just got to keep doing what you're doing, like was shown in Hard Knocks. But do you think that maybe? I don't think it's true, obviously. But do you think how much do you think that because there were cameras there, it is the reason why Jalen was kind of going up and down the sideline, talking to people, having conversations and whatnot. But like if the cameras weren't there, the Hard Knocks cameras weren't catching this, he would have just been stoic like he usually is on the sideline.
Well, and I think that's where people have to take it with a grain of salt. Fox chooses when to show Jalen Hurts. They could show Jalen Hurts doing the same stuff we saw in Hard Knocks, but they may choose to just show him as a stoic guy on the sideline to create some point of conversation on TV. We don't know. There's so many ways that TV operates that just the lay person will never understand or will just try and create something out of. And while I do believe that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni are very much, they will say what the media wants to hear type of guys, I don't know if putting a camera on them or the prospect of there could be a camera on you at any point in time is going to change how they are as a person. I know that how Jalen Hurts was with Devontae Smith and with that offensive line, I 100% believe that is Jalen Hurts. That is his personality. That is who he is. He does take accountability. He does go up to his guys. But what Fox or NBC or ABC or whoever's airing, what they want you to see to create a point of conversation with their analyst and their color commentator could be completely and markedly different than what we believe and see.
Yep. So I am intrigued if you have a chance to watch it before the next episode comes out. And they actually do it. They spent most of the time on Dallas and Washington for some reason. It was annoying, and they opened it up with the Eagles Cowboys game where the Eagles were up 21-0. So that kind of sucked. But if you have a chance to watch it, and they'll do a quick turnaround because they did have the Giants Broncos. Was it Broncos? Yeah, Giants Broncos Monday night game, or not Broncos? Washington. Was it the Washington?
Whatever. No, it was Washington and the Broncos with the overtime close game.
Yeah, whatever the Monday night game was in it. Because it featured an NFC East team, and with the Eagles playing on Monday this week, that they'll have the Eagles-Chargers game in it. Maybe they'll spend a little bit more time on the Eagles, but the Eagles don't like cameras around anyway, so maybe it was just them like, hey, just get as little as you need and go somewhere else.
I'm totally fine if they want to spend all their time over with the Dallas Cowboys on America's team. By all means, I could care less. Go ahead and do it. We didn't want to be a part of it in the first place.
I find it interesting to spend so much time on the Giants who are eliminated. Washington is about to be eliminated, and Dallas still has a shot at making the playoffs, even if it's slim. For another thing before we jump into the game, Darius Slay, big play Slay, was released by Pittsburgh and then claimed by Buffalo. The Eagles also put a claim behind him, and Buffalo's literally right ahead of the Eagles. They got him. He decided not to report, and then today he was put on the did not report list. I think him and his wife wanted to come back to Philly. And if it had gotten to the Eagles, he wouldn't be I don't want to use the word threatening, but wouldn't be contemplating retirement. Do you think the Bills will eventually? I know the Eagles play the Bills in a couple of weeks, so that makes it also interesting. But do you think that the Bills will eventually acquiesce, release him, and then he'll end up as an Eagle? Or do you think they're just going to hold on to him, keep his rights until the end of the year?
I don't know if you saw his interview there with Ocho and LaShawn McCoy or whatever, but yeah. Ocho, yep. Emmanuel Ocho, there we go. I saw the interview today. I listened to it, and Darius Slay's big thing was family. He got to spend time with his two kids at sports events, and his biggest thing, and at one point in the interview, he said he didn't want.
I lost you, Connor. Well, I think I know where you were going with that. He did say he wanted to be there with family. He, playing with the Eagles the last couple of years, they've played deep into, January, February. So he missed. You back, Connor? You kind of went away for a second.
I think so. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Do you hear me?
Jinx,
Okay,
yeah, I can hear
perfect.
you. You
Oh yeah,
jinxed
so
it by
no,
saying- you jinxed it before
I
the
was
show, by
going
the way.
there.
Go ahead.
I was going there, like you said, like Pittsburgh to Philadelphia, you don't really have to move. Like they wouldn't have really had to move as much as going to Buffalo. So he did kind of point out that he didn't really want to move. And when it initially came out that he was released, me and you both said in our Eagles pin pull group chat, like he wants to come back to Philadelphia. It's Philadelphia or bust. I don't know. I honestly don't think the Buffalo Bills, in the situation they're presently in, will release him and allow him any opportunity to go to any other contender, knowing that the contender is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. I just don't think they're going to do that, especially with the way that the Bills are right now. Like they're in a tough spot, so they're not going to be like, oh, you don't want to show up, fine, we'll release you, go where you want to go. I just don't think they're going to do that type of.
I do think they eventually will release him, but I also think that like if you've been in the league for a certain amount of time and you got released, you shouldn't have to go through waivers. You should automatically just be a free agent and kind of pick and choose where you want to go if you want to continue playing. Like Slay has said, I'm pretty sure he has said that this is his last year, so like let him finish out where he wants to finish out, and he would fit. Like he obviously played here, won a Super Bowl here last year, knows the defense. I mean, and I know he struggled this year, but that could just be the type of defense that the Steelers play. And I think that he would actually fit in well again here and be the second corner. He's better than Dory Jackson, you would think. But so I guess the only issue would be like he's definitely not getting his number 2 back because that's Jahan Dotson. 23 is Bennett. So I don't know how that would work out. And some of the other jersey choices are ugly, but if they released say they released Dory Jackson, then he can get number 8. But no, but yeah, so
I agree with you with that point, though. I mean, it's an interesting point to visit. It's kind of like restricted free agents, unrestricted free agents. It's like, at what point do you reach an age where a release is just a straight up release versus you have to clear waivers type of situation?
Like,
I mean, he's 34 years old.
Well, it's not even that. He's been in the league for what, 12 years, 10, 12 years. So like, if it gets to a point like you've been in the league for X amount of years and you get released, you don't have to go through the waiver process. I also think the way he was talking, there's certain things he can't say because you don't want the NFL to come at you. So he's not going to, when they asked him, like, if you had gotten claimed by the Eagles, would you have reported? He can't go, oh yeah, that's where I want it to be. I'd have been there, the second that I got claimed. Like he could not say that.
And I think Emmanuel Ocho knew that, like the way that it was asked, you could tell like Slay, like he pretty much winked essentially at the prospect of the question. But Emmanuel Ocho has to know the rules with that effect. But I mean, he's no longer with like Ocho and McCoy are no longer with like one of these big companies that has to toe the line of make sure you ask the question the NFL wants you to ask. They're on their own YouTube channel doing their own thing. So obviously they're going to push the envelope like they did there. But the way he answered that told you all you needed.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we're on the opposite ends of here. I do think that he will eventually get released and he'll find his way back to the Eagles. It's probably not going to be this week. It may not be next week, but he will get released. And it's not like he's going to be able to give any intel about the Bills. He's not even showing up there. Like they're not going to give him a playbook. So I do think like, when it happened, so I follow his wife on Twitter, and
of course
last year her name like had her name plus green hearts because he was an Eagle. This year it had yellow hearts because he's with Pittsburgh. But when he got released, she changed it back to green. She wants to come back to Philly. He wants to come back to Philly. Like it's obvious what's happening here, and just the Bills because they have a lesser strength of schedule. I think strength of record, whatever. They're like literally 1 or 2 spots ahead of us because I think we have the same record. So they
were 1 spot ahead, but that Jennifer Slay and Darius loved it here, and we loved them. Like it didn't matter that he wasn't playing to the level that we expected earlier on in his career. We loved him. They did so much for the community. I mean, here I am speaking from Canada, but I saw what they did for the community in Philadelphia and everything. So like that, I know they wanted to come back just to say, where he's at the end of no matter what, at the end of this year, I think he's retiring. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that that's what he's saying. He wants to retire. One of his kids is 18, another one's in high school. He wants to go to their sports. He wants to hang out with them. He wants to spend time with them. So I totally get it. At the end of the season, he's going to retire, and he wants to stay in Pennsylvania. So the goal was to force but not force his way to Philadelphia. That's why the mutual parting of ways happened. But
I also think he would have went back to Detroit because he did play in Detroit. So I don't know if it was just technically a Pennsylvania thing. He said he did call Philly a second home though, but he also got drafted by the Lions. So if Detroit would have put a claim in, he may have also went there. All right, so we'll see. We will see what happens, going forward, in terms of if Slay becomes an Eagle. The Eagles are heading to Los Angeles, where it's going to be a primarily Eagles crowd because there are no such thing as Charger fans, as the Philadelphia Eagles look to end their 2-game losing streak. Justin Herbert is questionable. He's going to play. I'm almost 100% sure he's going to play. But the thing about that, they probably won't be able to go under center, and they'll be in pistol and shotgun a lot. It'll be interesting to see how they go about that, handing the ball off and whatnot. Another thing is when Harbaugh was at Michigan, he has no quarrels about just running the football. And after what the Bears did to the Eagles on Black Friday, do not be surprised if the Chargers come out running the ball. They rushed for over 180 or 190 yards last week in their victory over the where's that?
It was 100. It was 190 yards against the Raiders.
Thank you, the Raiders, and the Raiders suck. And we know that I say that, and if we end up losing to them next week, I'll be pissed. Kamani Vidal is their starter. They have Jarrett Patterson, Omarion Hampton, and Hassan Haskins. I think started to practice. It wouldn't shock me if Hampton came off the IR this week. They have good receivers: Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen. I think where they are hurting is the strength was their offensive tackles with Joe Alt and Slater. Well, both of them are hurt out for the year. So if the Eagles are going to finally get pressure on the quarterback, this could hopefully be their chance. But you have to anticipate, especially with Jalen Carter out, that's going to be a big loss for the Eagles, that the Chargers are going to come out running the football at you to see if you can stop it after what happened against the Bears. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, I agree with you 100%. They're definitely going to run at you. They don't want to. So Justin Herbert is the second most pressured quarterback in the NFL. He is the fourth most sacked quarterback in the NFL. He just got surgery on not his thrown shoulder, but still, obviously, that's going to play a mental factor into Justin Herbert's game. He doesn't want to take these shots and be in this, this agonizing pain for the rest of the year, heading in towards the playoffs, because this is a team that obviously has playoff aspirations equal to the Philadelphia Eagles. So they're definitely going to run the football, especially after watching the Philadelphia Eagles get absolutely trounced for 281 rushing yards by the Chicago Bears. And I mean, when you look at it throughout, we were 125 rushing yards against the Cowboys. The Lions weren't able to do a whole lot. But we have had games where we've given up a lot. The Giants had 172 on us. The Rams had 160 on us. We've had a handful of over 100-yard rushing games. But, I mean, that was a huge thing. And if you have Omarion Hampton coming back into the picture, I feel like that's really going to give you even more confidence. I mean, Kamani Vidal went for I think it was 124 rushing yards last week. There's a chance that they don't give the full workload back to Hampton right away, and they go with Kamani Vidal. And when you look at Kamani, the two of them, from a rushing perspective and yards per carry perspective. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the stats on them there. They're both rushing for over. Kamani Vidal's at 4.5 yards per attempt, and Omari Hampton's averaging 4.8 yards per attempt. We know that Jim Harbaugh loves to run the football. It goes back to obviously doesn't matter about JJ McCarthy, but JJ McCarthy threw for such a small number. He wasn't even forced to throw the football that much in the year that he ended up winning the championship and ended up getting drafted. And that's one of the things that a lot of analysts are looking back at now is like, should we have seen this coming with JJ McCarthy because of how much Jim Harbaugh leaned on a Russian attack in a Russian game? We knew when he came into the LA Chargers, like drafting Amari Hampton as high as they drafted him, they were going to go, and then they brought in Najee Harris. Najee Harris obviously got hurt, hasn't been able to really play to the same degree, but we knew that he was going to be a primarily running offense. So they're definitely going to run the ball. They're definitely going to try and take some pressure off of Herbert and kind of give him, a post week, try and give him a little bit of time to get that shoulder better so that, he can take some hits, he can take some shots. But no matter what, I mean, once he drops back into some sort of passing scenario, he is the second most pressured and fourth most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So this has to be a get right game for the Eagles, who over the last 2 weeks, the Russian attack really hasn't gotten home. I mean, obviously this past week, we didn't get much of a chance to get home because Caleb Williams barely had to throw the football. But then the week prior to that, we didn't really create much pressure on Dak Prescott. And then the 2 weeks prior, like Jalen Phillips arrived and Nolan Smith was back into the lineup, and we were looking like we were moving somewheres. So we had 2 games where we looked like we were going somewheres with this new Russian attack, this renewed Russian attack. And then we had 2 weeks where we've been almost non-existent, and you're going up against a team who can exploit what seems to be one of your biggest recent weaknesses, and that's Russian attack.
Yeah, the Eagles are going to have to find a way to get back on track there. And I've always thought I'm not a big fan of the 3-4 defense. And maybe this would be a week without Jalen Carter. Maybe you go to a 4-3 and we see more of Jahad Campbell. Campbell didn't play any defensive snaps last week. They don't want to take Nakobe Dean off the field. They were better against the run and better defensively when he came back. And then obviously, as you mentioned, the last couple of weeks they've struggled. But maybe I'm of the proponent to put your best 11 on the field. And if Jahad Campbell is part of it, you have to find a way to put him on the field. And I know Fangio likes to play the 3-4, sometimes go to a 5-down line, a set 5-down lineman, but maybe go to a 4-3. Especially when the receivers for the Chargers are good. Ladd McConkey's good, so that Ladd McConkey versus Cooper DeJean matchup will be nice. Quinion will probably be on Quentin Johnson, and it'd be my guess. I know Keenan Allen is back there, and he obviously could potentially be a Hall of Famer. He is at an advanced age, but he's still having a pretty decent year. So Dory Jackson, and we don't know what's going to happen at safety. It's probably going to be Marcus Epps would be my guess, because Sidney Brown sucks and should not be on the field at safety starting.
It would be our hope, and not just our guess, our hope.
It better be. And I'm still of the ilk that Justin Simmons is sitting out there. Maybe he's just doesn't want to play, and I think he does, obviously. And the fact that Fangio knows him, you would assume or would hope that he would try to get him out there on the field, or try to call him up, see where he's at in his training, and see if he's ready to play. And he'd probably say yeah, but who knows what's going on there. But Sidney Brown cannot see the field at safety. So I do believe that it is going to be Marcus Epps. He's been practicing fully. So we'll see what happens on the defensive side of the football and what they decide to do. I do think they need to get Jahad Campbell on the field a little bit more. Moro Jomo is going to be playing a lot more snaps. Ty Robinson's going to be playing snaps. He hasn't been active a lot this year, but he's going to have to play with Carter out with his shoulder procedures. And Jalen Phillips and Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt, they all have to win their matchups. You're going up against backup tackles. We have to get to Herbert. Herbert will get rid of the ball quickly, that's for sure. But find a way to get to Herbert and try to create some turnovers. He's got a bad hand. He's not going to want to put the ball into his left hand. Maybe swipe at it. Who knows? But we'll see what happens. But the Eagles are going to have to find a way to get pressure on this offense and stop the run. That's key number 1, 2, and 3.
I'll give a beat a minute. I don't know if something happened with the Bills today. I didn't see anything, but please elaborate why they've become number one on your Hey Watch. Is it just because they won't release?
The Slay thing. They put them on the retired
Okay,
did not
okay.
report list. That's why.
I mean I get it, but to the same degree, obviously you don't want to open up, the ability for this guy to go to a potential contender. I mean, I get it. The NFL is, the Bills are backed into a corner. Sean McDermott's constantly the conversation of like, is he going to make it through this year? Should he continue to be the coach of the Bills and stuff? So obviously they're going to do things that get into the playoffs and see what they can do in the playoffs. And they're not going to make any other team possibly better in any other way if they can avoid it.
Especially
I feel like the
playing.
Eagles, if you think about it, the Eagles would probably be of the same ilk if there was a Bills guy released, or if they had a similar opportunity and they were right in front of the Bills and they knew that this guy wanted to go back to the Bills, there's a good chance that the Eagles would probably do it too. I mean, talk to LA Rams fans. The Eagles think we're a classless organization because of what we did with Willie Lampkin, who ended up on the IR for the rest of the year anyways. So all teams are going to do something in a certain way for a specific reason. But that was just a quick off note, just to understand that. So, I agree with you. I think one of the biggest things I was looking at the Dennis Selman's advanced stats. If you guys don't follow him, great. He puts out an amazing advanced stats. I think it's almost every Friday as long as we play on Sunday or Monday. And the Chargers rank number 12 in 3-and-out percentage, while the Eagles defense ranks 31st in 3-and-out percentage. We have struggled mightily. It is not just our offense that struggles to continue drives on the field. Our defense struggles to get off the field, and that doesn't just, obviously we didn't just drop to 31st because we sucked last week. We have struggled in this category for a while and throughout most of the season. So it's going to be mightily important for the Eagles to make stops, make those big third down stops. Don't allow these third and short situations. Like last week, you just allowed such simple situations for the Bears to just take advantage of and just be like, we can hand this off. All we need is 3 yards, 2 yards, 1 yard. It just was so simple. You didn't have to put the ball in Caleb's hands. You could put it right into Monangai or Swift's hands and they were going to get the job done. And you knew they were going to get the job done. And obviously, like I alluded to, this isn't just this week. This is an issue that has persisted. We're not 31st for 1 week. We're 31st because we've been this way throughout much of this season. And we've had zero capabilities of as much as we blame the offense for their 3-and-out situations, we'll get into that later in the time of possession situation. But the defense is not able to get off the field in opportune times when they should be getting off the field as well. And fundamentals, tackles, just make the tackles. Last week was like, I remember in the review episode, PFF, who we at times loathe, gave 13 missed tackles. I would argue was double that. I think it was definitely more than that. And we could argue, obviously, 13 missed tackles, but there was probably double that and they didn't line it up right. Sidney Brown came out of a cannon and missed the guy by a few yards. Obviously those aren't going to count as missed tackles, but there were so many situations where we just didn't look good and weren't just fundamentally sound. And that's going to be the reality. Makuba was starting to become more fundamentally sound. He missed a lot of tackles earlier in the season, but he was starting to become more fundamentally sound. You could start to trust him more. He wasn't facing the wrath of Vic Fangio as much. And then we had to pivot to Sidney Brown, who is clearly nowhere as close to the degree of Makuba and is never going to, I don't think, can develop to that degree that Andrew Makuba was getting to. So it's going to be really important, I think, for them to just be fundamentally sound, make it third and long, make it third and difficult, anything. 3rd and 5 is more difficult than 3rd and 2 or 3. But if you give them those opportunities, they're going to run the ball, and they're going to run the ball because they love to run the ball, this LA Chargers team.
And they're also good between the 20s, but when they get into the red zone, they're not that good, which is kind of surprising when you have somebody like Keenan Allen who you can just throw the ball up to. But yeah, they're going to test the will of this Eagles defense without Jalen Carter, and after the last couple of weeks giving up a lot of runs, hopefully I wonder if getting away now, there's going to be a crap ton of Eagles fans there, so it might not work. But I was going to say, I wonder if getting away from the home confines of Lincoln Financial Field would help. But considering that half the stadium, if not more than half the stadium, is going to be Eagles fans, it might not matter. But we'll see. Maybe getting into warmer climate for them, wind won't be a factor. Maybe that could help on the offensive side of the ball. But like, just might be. You're not going to be. It won't be as easy to get all tight because you're not going to be like standing out in the cold. It's going to be warm climate and whatnot. So we'll see. But it's going to be the only game in town on Monday. Everybody's going to be watching. And this is your chance to knock another game off of clinching the NFC East. So let's jump over to the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles. Obviously all the talk, apparently Jordan Mailata said that they've added a little bit new wrinkles to the running game. So we'll see if that helps this week. I don't know the offense has to get better. I will say that Jalen has to play better. The offensive line definitely has to play better. Landon Dickerson had a rest day today. Hopefully it was just a rest day and nothing more than that. Also, congratulations to Jordan Mailata for being the Eagles' Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. That's pretty cool. And if you think, not to go off subject, if you think back to like the Philadelphia Eagles going from Brian Dawkins to Brandon Graham, or Jason Kelsey to Brandon Graham, even Malcolm Jenkins. Now, I think the next guy in line is going to be Jordan Mailata. Like that type of leader, that type of personality in the locker room. It's actually really cool. Like that he's getting the recognition that he deserves. I don't know if you want to say something on that front.
No, I agree with you. We know that we've over the past couple of off seasons lost a whole lot of leaders, and we need some people to step up. And Jordan Mailata, he may not be playing great, but you can tell in the locker room his presence is felt, his presence is known, and people absolutely respect him. And he's doing so much for this community. And this guy came from, like, when we think about it, this guy came from the international development program as a rugby player, never played a snap of football in his life, and got to this point that he is, and got so ingrained in the community. And he's got a great singing voice. We always think about when it comes to this time of year with the Christmas album that they used to do, or I don't know if they still do. I don't think they're doing this year.
They didn't do it this year.
No, they used to do it, and he had a great voice.
Yeah. So going back to the Eagles offense, they need to figure it out on running the ball, getting on sync, because you saw there was one scene in Hard Knocks where after Jalen missed Devontae on the slant, Devontae went up to Jalen's, all right, what did you see? They talked it out, and he goes, when I pointed to you, I thought you were going to sit. And Devontae goes, well, we talked about it. I was going to do just miscommunication there. And you like to see that communication between teammates. So hopefully they have those kinks worked out, which is a surprise because those two have played together for a long time, even going back to their Bama days. But looking at this Chargers defense, they play a 3-4. They're one of my favorite defenders. Derwin James is a safety. I love Derwin James. They do everything with him. Blitz him, can cover. He's going to be all over the field, so that'll be interesting to see, how they're able to work around him. Khalil Mack also, he's up there in age, but he still can get after the quarterback. So it's going to be interesting how the Eagles are able to, and I don't want to hear again. We hear like, all right, so we practiced or we studied all the fronts that they run, but then when we get into a game situation, they do something we've never seen. I don't want to hear that again. I want to know that like they are prepared. Stoutland has them prepared. Patullo has them prepared. This offense is prepared for whatever the Chargers throw at them, because Jesse Minter, their defensive coordinator, is going to throw a bunch at Jalen, try to disguise things, try to confuse him. And Jalen's not one to turn the ball over. He did turn it over twice against the Bears, interception and fumble, but he's going to try to force turnovers to get his offense, which has a injured quarterback or a quarterback that may be hurt, that's hurt, and try to get them a short field to give them easy scoring opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that stood out when I was checking out, how the Chargers play defense, they play zone coverage the third most in the NFL. Jesse Minter is going to have a field day with Jalen Hurts because Jalen Hurts struggles against zone coverage. We've seen that. This has been his entire career in the NFL where he struggled with it. 82% of the time, they play zone coverage, and they rank dead last in man coverage. They don't play man coverage. They play zone coverage. That's all they do. That's just how their 3-4 defense looks, and that is not something that's going to play well to how Jalen Hurts' confidence builds. Any opportunity he gets to go man on man, he takes advantage of it. But I don't think he's going to get a lot of advantages to do that this week. And I think that that's going to be hopefully, Kevin Patullo studied the film, looked at the film, and is going to be able to figure out how can we start to make Jalen Hurts effective against zone coverage. I mean, it's asking a lot of Kevin Patullo, considering he hasn't seemed to be able to figure anything out about this offense whatsoever. But you're going to probably have to learn how can you work in the middle of the field and just make second, third, and manageable situations. I mean, we've become such a predictable offense. It's so easy to tell what we're going to do. As soon as we go under center, you can almost bet 9 times out of 10 that we're going to end up we're going to end up running the football. Like, you can't be that predictable, and you have to find a way to work the middle of the field, which is a part of the field that for some reason Kevin Patullo has been absolutely petrified to test or even consider looking at throughout this season. And you can tell.
But before you continue, do you think that's a Patullo thing or Hurts thing? Because it has been throughout all the offensive coordinators that they don't really, and the one constant there has been Hurts. So is it, do you think it really is a Patullo thing?
I mean, it could be a Hurts thing, but then I think that the issue with it being a Hurts thing is Hurts' confidence comes from the deep ball, the big ball, and Kevin Patullo's route concepts aren't conducive of creating something with a big deep ball. So if it's that, there's lack of confidence in throwing to the middle of the field, because that's the area of the field where there's the most guys, there's the biggest opportunity to turn over the football. And we know we haven't been able to diagnose who is the reason that there's this complete, afraidness of turning the ball over, whether that is Patullo, whether that's Sirianni, based on previous history with Jalen Hurts, whether that's Jalen Hurts, we don't know. But I feel like you still have to at times test it. And we saw last year, like, you look at like the route concepts or how AJ Brown's run this year versus last year. You saw last year, Kellen Moore wasn't afraid to test the middle of the field periodically and do things in the middle of the field. I think you just have to make sure Jalen's comfortable with it and willing to do it just as much. And I feel like Kellen Moore had more of a connection with Jalen than Jalen has with Kevin Patullo, which is kind of weird because Kevin Patullo's been very much a part of that offense for way longer than Kellen Moore. Whether that is I struggle to believe whether that's Jalen Hurts saying, I've been in the league longer and I'm not going to listen to you, which I highly don't believe with him and Kevin Patullo. Whereas he respected, a guy like Kellen Moore because Kellen Moore's been in the offense a lot longer. I'm not trying to create anything, but, could that be something that is a rift between Patullo and Hurts, is that they're butting heads because Patullo, it's his first time being a play caller, and Hurts isn't willing to respect and stand by him as a play caller? I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
I was just going to say the same thing. It might be because Kellen Moore has done it before. He also played the position at a high-ish level. He was really good in college at Boise State, kind of a backup in the NFL. But he had called plays for, Dak, for Tony Romo too, for Dak and for, for Herbert. So maybe just respecting because he's done it before. And I'm not saying he doesn't respect Kevin Patullo. He has respect for him. But sometimes, again, when you don't hear things, or if you're not seeing eye to eye, it's just because you just don't know like what his thinking is and why he's thinking what he's thinking. And again, like you said, they've been together for 5 years because he was the quarterback's coach and the passing game coordinator. So that doesn't make much sense, but who knows? Anything is possible.
Yeah, and then back to the zone coverage aspect. Obviously, Hurts, his EPA per drop back is 0.01 against zone, which is 22nd among 33 eligible quarterbacks. And then his passer rating versus zone is 15 points worse than versus man. You know that you're going to see a whole lot of zone. So as uncomfortable as it's going to make Jalen Hurts feel, he's going to have to figure out a way to manage it, work with it, deal with it, and improve on it. When you get an opportunity where you're facing a team that's going to show zone that often, it's a learning opportunity. It's a chance for Jalen Hurts to get better and to be better in situations that he's uncomfortable in, which clearly, based on what we've been talking about and based on kind of just a discussion we were having about Patullo and him, he doesn't like to be uncomfortable. And I think that he needs to learn to be uncomfortable and excel when forced into some uncomfortable situations. And then another stat that stood out to me, his offensive weapons ranked dead last in yards after the catch per completion. I feel like Kevin Patullo, like this has felt like a continuous thing that we've said about Kevin Patullo. He has to work to the strengths of his players, and he just doesn't seem to be able to do that, can't do that. And we need to get to a point where we're much better, because I think that Jalen Hurts needs to be able to trust his guys to create after the play too. It's not just about Jalen Hurts and what can he do with the ball in his hands. It's also about what can Jalen Hurts' weapons do after the catch. And we have seen almost nothing.
They did have that opportunity on that play last week on third down to Devontae, because if Devontae would have caught that,
of course,
he would have went for a touchdown. So again, I'm not defending Patullo here because I think he should be fired. I don't think he should be calling plays. But also the players do. I mean, Jalen has to hit that pass, and the players have to make catches when they're open. So it does work both ways, to where both the players and the coaches have to be better. I'm still of the belief that it's not going to be Patullo calling plays on Monday. I know we haven't heard anything, but it would not shock me if somebody else is calling plays. If somebody else has the sheet, I don't know who it would be. But I said it on Monday, Sirianni's not going to give it away. He likes the competitive advantage. So he's not going to be like, oh yeah, by the way, Scott Loeffler's going to be calling plays this week. And so that the Chargers can go and look at Bowling Green tape, whatever it may be. So,
and I think it was Zach Berman that pointed out that very close to this time, I think it was December 17th last year, he said there was going to be nothing changed with Sean Desai, and then out of the blue, Matt Patricia was calling plays that week. So it's not out of it was one of the things that I pointed out on our Twitter feed. Don't trust. Nick Sirianni loves to play with the media. He loves to say what the media wants to hear, and then behind closed doors, he's going to do what he finds best for the team. And the fact that he stood by the play caller in the post-game presser on Friday, and then came out on Monday and said there was, a lot of thinking and some contemplating over the weekend about the play caller, kind of felt like there was more alluded to there than he usually would give off. And in that, somebody knocked on his door, and somebody's starting to light a fire, and he's going to have to start to consider some things. And maybe we do see a different play caller. I agree with you. I don't know if we see Patullo calling plays again this week. I think he stood by him immediately after the Friday game, just because it was right after the game. But the fact that he had to revisit this and actually alluded to the thought process over the weekend on Monday kind of makes me think that there's maybe some consideration to some other people in the building.
I mean, they always do a self-evaluation when they have extra days. So it doesn't surprise me that they kind of went and evaluated things. Did Laurie or Roseman get to him? That's also a potential thing that could have happened. So, but again, we'll never know. But if somebody else is calling plays, and maybe we won't, maybe somebody else is calling plays, we just won't know. And like, if they have a good game on Monday offensively, everybody will applaud Patullo. Who knows? I'm still of that belief that somebody else is going to be calling plays, but we'll see, because the offense does. Both players and coaching and play calls does need to get better. It's not all on one person. As much as I despise Patullo, it's not all on him. It's on everybody to play better. The offensive line has to play better in the running game. Saquon has to play better, catching the ball, hitting his holes. The receivers have to play better. I also don't want to see Grant Calcaterra blocking anymore. Can we put Cam Latu as the tight end too. He played tight end at Alabama. He's a much better blocker. And I know Goddard's also not as good of a blocker as he used to be, but still, put Latu at tight end too. Grant Calcaterra and Kylan Granson cannot do it. I am annoyed every time they go out there and they're getting beat play after play whenever the Eagles tried to run behind them. Also, why do they keep running to the right? That makes zero sense to me. They keep running behind Johnson and Steen when obviously Mailata and Dickerson, who admittedly aren't playing as good as they were last year, because nobody else is except maybe Devontae Smith, but on the offensive line, nobody is. Why don't they run that way? They run to the right a lot, and that annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many weird niches to this offense that maybe we're never going to figure out, because the way that like Kevin Patullo talks to the media it feels like he's just speaking in rhymes and just you're just trying to understand, like, do you know what you're doing, or do you really just straight up not know what you're doing, or don't know what's going on out there on the football field? But I agree. I mean, I feel like we brought up Cam Latu's name for like every week since the bye week. Like every time he's on the field, something good happens. Does it mean that there's constantly going to be something good happen when he's on the field? No. But I mean, when you consider over the last 4 weeks, he's been on the field 6 times and something's good has happened, or something for major positive yardage has happened 4 out of the 6 times he's on the field, I'm willing to test that out versus Grant Calcaterra. We've seen Kylan Granson push Granson aside. Like the fact that he's even out there to block in any respect is laughable. Grant Calcaterra, we've given him opportunity for 2 years, 3 years now. Like, it's time to move on from that. He's a pass catcher. Fine. If you want to keep him as a third tight end, literally only in passing situations where you're not leaving him one-on-one with a defensive end or a blitzing linebacker or something, by all means, go ahead. But the fact that you put him one-on-one with some of these guys makes zero sense. And like I said, I think it's 2 weeks now that I've said with Cam Latu, he can catch the ball if he has to catch the ball. It's not like he's an inept catcher. Same as Jack Stoll. Jack Stoll it reminds me so much of Cam Latu. If you need to call his number, he's going to catch a ball. But one thing you can trust is he is going to make the blocks when he needs to make the blocks. So I think that that's more important. And he's been such an asset on special teams. It just doesn't make sense not to do that. But let's get to some of these Adams exploits. As Latu at tight end, absolute 100 for sure. And then he says, wow, Eagles may win the NFC East. We may see a repeat NFC East winner for the first time in 21 years.
Magic numbers 3.
The odds are good. The odds are good. 3. And then we got Brett Eclipse. I'm done scapegoating Patullo. Yes, he stinks and they need to make a change, but my attention is towards Sirianni now. This is the second time under his tenure they're facing a collapse like this. It's also Nick who is most likely responsible for hiring Patullo and continuing to push him out as a play caller to begin with. Your thoughts?
I mean, yeah. So it's crazy because I think Vic Fangio was a Roseman and Lurie hire. Let's be honest. And obviously Kellen Moore was a Lurie and Roseman hire. They were good. For sure. Brian Johnson was a Jalen Hurts / Nick Sirianni hire. That wasn't good. And Patullo's obviously a Nick Sirianni hire, and it hasn't gone well. We just talk about it's Nick Sirianni's offense. But we've also heard that Jalen say, like, the offense is going to look how I want it to look. So I'm not defending Sirianni or Patullo, and I'm not trying to talk down on or talk bad about Jalen, but like, can we have it both ways? Like, Jalen has always said each game's going to look different. As long as we come away to win, I don't care how it looks. It's going to look different, and it's going to look the way I want it to look because he's the quarterback. But then everybody wants to blame Sirianni and Patullo. Which one is it? That's my thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think, like, in this degree, if you really have a whole lot of faith in your quarterback, you have to trust to put some degree of faith in him in your play call. And obviously, like we've talked about in past weeks, we haven't gotten into it in this episode, but obviously we get to it in almost every episode. When the play call comes in with such short notice and they get to the line and Jalen Hurts is able to see what's there, that's a coaching issue. It's 100% a coaching issue, but you need to give Jalen Hurts the chance, because there has to be some degree of confidence that Jalen Hurts can also see what's happening on the field and make a decision and make a play call. And if he has to pivot away from what the offensive coordinator said and audible, like, you have to give, I believe you have to 100% give him the opportunity. It makes no sense not to, but there's no opportunity to do that when they get to the line of scrimmage with 7 seconds to go and he's just got to look very quickly and all they're doing is calling out blitzes and that's it. Like, he doesn't get a chance to say, what am I seeing and what can I do to ensure that something positive is coming out of this play? And I mean, to me, that 100% a coaching thing, but also, like, you have to have confidence in your quarterback. You know that the Ravens, the Chargers, some of these other teams absolutely have confidence in their quarterback to get to the line of scrimmage with 15 seconds left, has a couple play calls in mind, looks at what's in front of him, makes a decision, snaps the ball, and goes based on his decision or the coach's decision. It doesn't have to be this big ego thing or one or the other. I think that we ultimately have to understand, we have to give the opportunity to Jalen Hurts to make a decision, and he absolutely cannot make a decision based on how the call is getting into him.
Yeah, I agree. And as an offensive coordinator, you have to, and this is where his inexperience as offensive coordinator, you have to think 2 plays ahead, 3 plays ahead. And it seems like he calls a play, waits for the outcome, and then is like, all right, let me figure it out. And you can't do that. I hate when they break the huddle less than 10 seconds. The times that the offense seems like they move smoothly is when they break the huddle with a lot of time and the offensive line is able to examine what the defense is doing. Jalen's able to examine it, make an adjustment, and boom, go and play.
Or when they do no huddle and it's probably Jalen Hurts who's almost exclusively in control.
Yeah, and when they play up tempo, and you obviously can't do that. We saw that in the Chip Kelly days. You can't play up tempo an entire game, but given when you're struggling, give us a series or 2 with up tempo and see, and let Jalen call the plays or get the plays in and let them go after. Like, you can exploit defenses when you go quick, and the Eagles don't do enough of it.
And then Brett Eclipse, question for you too. Not talking just schematics. Does this team ever look like they practice? Do they ever look prepared or disciplined?
No, they don't. Like, and I get it. The last 2 weeks, excuse me, or the last 3 weeks, not counting yesterday for Dallas, like their opponents have gotten way more penalties than they have achieved. And that could be a coincidence. Who knows? But like, the Eagles have 14 penalties. The Chiefs had 10, I think, 10 or 12 penalties. So like, it's ridiculous.
Was it there's a stat out there where it's how, like, most games where they had 100 penalty yards for the opposing team, and
Dallas
it's the
like
Cowboys
5.
with 5, and then like 8 or 10 teams with one.
Yeah. Again, like, let's be, and it was funny. Dallas fans complaining about calls yesterday. Like, give me a break. You got so many calls for you against the Eagles and the Chiefs, even the Raiders. Like, give me a break. But yeah, no, they do look undisciplined. Like, you're jumping off sides. The receivers jumping off sides also doesn't make sense. And AJ's done that a couple of times the last couple of weeks. So, like, again, the tough, detailed together mentality, like, they really haven't displayed that over the last couple of weeks. The details are not there, obviously, especially when it comes to the offense. Toughness on the defensive side of the ball. Giving up over 280 yards rushing, you got to be better. Now, Jalen Carter hasn't been playing the way he's we anticipated him playing, and hopefully this procedure he got on his shoulders will help him when he comes back in 2, 3, 4 weeks. But they're going to have to come together and play a lot tougher, be a lot more detailed on offense. Be where you're supposed to be. No more miscommunications between the quarterback and the receivers. And I think that the entire world, the entire media, everybody talking about them and talking down on them, I actually do think that that's going to galvanize them and bring them together.
I agree. I mean, there's nobody that hates the Philly media or the national media, like, to our degree, as much as the Eagles in general. the way that some of them answer tells you all you need to know about the respect that they have for the media and everything that's going on. And I mean, I don't know if you saw George Pickens and his Instagram post that he put out and then removed about Richard Sherman and stuff. But like these players don't care about the media and the analysts and what they say, or, you know, these guys who played in the league 10, 12, 20 years ago and what they think and feel or believe now. Like they just care about what they can do on the field and what they can do to win. And I would acquiesce that for the most part, most of these players, if they didn't have to give their time to the media, they absolutely wouldn't. You can tell they're most are robotic because, and I absolutely don't blame them one bit. Some of the questions I hear, I'm like, you went to school and got yourself an education to do this? And I can promise you didn't need it.
Somebody asked Herbert this week, like, do you anticipate playing? Like, of course he anticipates. Or, like, are you preparing to play this week? Of course he's preparing to play. The question should be, are you playing this week? Like, some of the questions that do get asked by the media are, you know, they aren't the brightest bulbs in the box. Like, I get it. They're trying to be on the good side of the athletes and kind of want to be given preferential treatment or whatnot. But sometimes you have to ask the hard questions. All right.
I totally feel like some of them ask the way they ask just because they want respected by the organization and to get, you know, some people who are going to give them some insight to deals so that they can be, you know, the insider or be able to start providing valuable details to who they're working with. But I mean, whatever. We already know me and you both hate the media in Philadelphia here. So let's move on.
Let's move on to let's get set to give our predictions. Give offensive and defensive player to watch, a key or two, and then we will go to unheralded players and then our prediction. You can go first, Connor.
My key to the game is own the time of possession. We've not owned the time of possession. Get some run game going. Mix up, you know, Tank Bigsby and Saquon Barkley. I'm not saying that Saquon Barkley needs 15 carries and Tank needs 15 carries. I'm saying, you know, throw that defense off. Throw Bigsby out there a handful of times. Get him out there and get him running the ball. We know that he's not going to dance in the backfield like Saquon Barkley has been. He's going to hit the hole that he sees, and we've seen that throughout this season, that he's going to hit that hole, he's going to go. But we absolutely need to control the time of possession. We've been one of the worst teams in controlling time of possession, and it's been absolutely so vital in what's caused our defense. In my opinion, it is what has caused our defense to struggle so much. If you're out there 30 minutes of the game and the offense is out there for 19, like, you know, Friday against the Chicago Bears, that you can't expect the defense to hold up and bend and not break. Eventually they're going to break, especially when they're on the field for as much time as they are. So, I mean, getting back to some sort of basics to establish some sort of run game, I think is absolutely vital, and controlling that time of possession game, getting into second and third and short situations where you can actually do something. And this may be a hot take, but I would be 100% happy to start moving away from the tush push. Things are not going well with this offense, and teams it seems like it's becoming way more predictable in how they can stop the tush push. I'm totally fine with some sort of QB sneak, some sort of trick play, something that is different than what we know is the predictable 2 yards or less scenario that we've been seeing, because it hasn't worked over the last, I mean, what is it, 4 or 5 weeks now that the tush push really hasn't been working. So I think that that's going to be important, which obviously leads to my player of the game being Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's got to get it right. Don't dance in the backfield. Hit the holes. Just make the plays. Tank Bigsby is so effective because he's just hitting the hole that's there. Sometimes, like, I've watched some film watchers who are talking about it, and it's like, here's the hole, and they hit it. And then they show the film, and it's Saquon Barkley dancing in the backfield and not willing to hit the hole, just looking for a big play. At this point, we don't need the 30, the 40-yard play. We just need some plays. We need some positive gains on this offense and some sort of substance to gain for them. Defensively, I mean, I feel bad. I hate saying the fundamentals, but it is a fundamental. After last week, it's just making those plays, keeping the play in front of you, and making the tackle that's in front of you. Do not make this more complicated than it has to be. Don't stand there. Wait for some help. You don't have to be the one that makes the tackle. Just be the one that makes it harder for them to get by you, and the fundamentals that way. And I think it's for me, the player to watch, I'm gonna go with Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips was huge over the 2 weeks prior to the last 2 weeks, and he's kind of been non-existent. And I feel like, with this idea that Justin Herbert is the second most pressured quarterback in the league, he's the fourth most sacked quarterback in the league, I feel like that it is definitely time that this is a get-right game for this pass rush that has been non-existent for the last 2 weeks. They have to get home. Whether you pick Jalen Phillips, whether you pick Nolan Smith, they got to start getting home. They got to start creating some pressure. They got to start making people uncomfortable. I mean, you got to remember, Justin Herbert is a week out of surgery. You can make this guy uncomfortable. You can make this guy not feel good. So while I go fundamentals is a key to the game, I think Jalen Phillips is a guy that needs to show like it wasn't just a 2 week thing. He's a guy that can be trusted, and especially come this playoff run.
Yeah, so before I get to mine, Adam Exploits says, I thought Hurts was a top 7 quarterback before this year, but he's having a really bad year. He's not Stafford or Purdy throwing with anticipation. So that's never been Jalen Hurts' game. I think what's really hurting Jalen Hurts is he doesn't run as much as he used to. Like, he's on pace for his career low rushing attempts this year. And the reason why Jalen Hurts was Jalen Hurts is he helps the running game. And when he makes plays on the feet, that kind of affects the defense, because then they'll start having to key in on him and he'll be able to throw the ball. So I think, and I know there's all this talk coming out that he said that he didn't want to run the football, and then he was asked it and he goes, where'd you hear that from? Blah, blah, blah. But if Jalen can start using his legs more, that'll help Saquon. Then that could affect the defense, which should help the receivers. So Jalen's game has never been in throwing with anticipation. So if like that's your expectation of him, yes, he's not going to look good, but your expectation should be like he should be able, like he should have hit Devontae. Now that was more of a miscommunication, but you have to be able to make plays like that and hit the open receiver. So hopefully that happens, and hopefully he starts moving, running, using his legs more, because that'll help the offense a lot. I
agree with you on that point. Just quickly, like, obviously he's not a pocket quarterback, and there's so many people that try to pin him and Lamar Jackson into this like pocket quarterback type of situation and then rank them based on that. That's just not what either of those guys are. And if you take away the running game, no matter what the situation presently is with him and whether he wants to run or doesn't want to run, obviously quarterbacks don't want to run as to the degree that Jalen Hurts or Lamar Jackson have had to run in their careers, but that's what makes him special. That's what made Jalen Hurts a $50 million man. He is not a $50 million man as a pocket passer.
No, yeah, he's not, and that's not why he got paid. So my player of the game on the offensive side of the ball is going to be Fred Johnson. You're going to be lining up against Khalil Mack. You don't want to let him affect the game, and the offensive line has to play better. I could go, obviously you can go Dickerson, you can go Mailata, like Fred Johnson. It's almost like the utility man in baseball who everybody wants to play because he's got good numbers, but then when he's out there for a long stretch, his numbers start coming back to earth. Johnson is a good backup, good swing tackle. He's playing a lot more. Is this going to be game number 3, I think, for him? And hopefully Johnson will be back against the Raiders, which they'll need against Max Crosby. But he's going to be lined up most likely against Khalil Mack, who lines up on that side. It's going to be vital for him to win that matchup, to give Jalen time and to open up holes for Saquon. And obviously the big key is protect the football. Don't turn it over. Don't give short fields to the Chargers. And they have a quarterback who's got a dinged hand. Force them to go a full field if need be. Any drive that ends in a kick is a good drive. Now, I don't want to see as many. The Eagles lead the league in 3 and outs. Obviously, let's not see a bunch of 3 and outs, but just let's find a momentum, find a consistency on offense, and see if we can get the offense going. On the defensive side of the ball, I'm going to go to Kobe Dean because we know what the Chargers are going to want to do. They're going to want to run the ball. Over 190 yards last week. The Eagles gave up over 280 to the Bears, so you know that that's what Harbaugh is going to want to do. He's shown it in college. The game again, I think he was coaching the game against Penn State. I don't think J.J. McCarthy threw the ball after the first quarter. They literally ran the ball the entire game. They don't care. He doesn't care what the stats are for the quarterback. He just wants to find a way to win, and that's kind of like these two teams are kind of similar in that way. But yeah, so the Kobe Dean is going to have to get the defense prepared. Hit the hole. Can't have late reads, and get after Vidal, Patterson, Hampton if he's back, and kind of force them to be one dimensional. Because if they can just come out, run the ball, get third, get 4 or 5 yards on first down, have a second and short, third and manageable, it's going to be tough to get off the field. I know the Chargers aren't great on, in the red zone, but if they're able to run the ball, that could really hurt and shorten the game. And, without Jalen Carter, that's what they're going to want to do. They're going to try to tell, Moro Jomo, look, we'll double team you. We always, we know that Carter gets double teamed, but we'll double team you now. Let's see how you do and see how you play. So I'm going Fred Johnson and Kobe Dean.
I like it.
All right, so let's get to our unheralded player of the week for week 14 or 13, in the NFL. What do we mean by unheralded, Connor? We don't want the Josh Allens, the Lamar Jacksons. We don't want those guys. We don't want Derrick Henrys. We want somebody who help their team. I usually like to go with winners. You sometimes don't go with winners all the time. But somebody who helped their team. Who's your unheralded player? Somebody that came out of nowhere to help their team.
I've gotten better. After you've said that, I've gotten better. I'm trying to do better there. I'm going with A.D. Mitchell for the New York Jets. I mean, he went for 8, 102-1 in a Jets another Jets victory. I mean, these guys are playing so hard in New York with so much less to play with than so many of these other teams in football. And I mean, Woody Johnson's probably hating it because they're killing the draft capital and the value that it is. But A.D. Mitchell, 8, 102-1 in another Jets victory. I love to see teams that should be tanking that are playing super hard and super well for that. Well, super hard. I wouldn't say just playing super well, but super hard for their coach. So I'm going A.D. Mitchell, who obviously he made some really bad decisions earlier in the season with the Colts and dropping the ball before the end zone, blah, blah, blah. But he got another opportunity with the New York Jets, and he's done quite a bit with that opportunity. So I'm giving it to A.D. Mitchell.
I'm going Christian Benford of the Buffalo Bills. He had an interception, a fumble return for a touchdown to help the Bills and their mini losing streak and defeat the Steelers 26-7 to help them improve to 8-4. I know that we hate the Bills right now because they aren't going to let us get Darius Slay, at least as of right now. I still think he's going to end up on the Eagles. But yeah, he had a good game, and that meleaguered defense. That's why they claimed Darnell Savage today. They're trying to find bodies to help that secondary. That's why they claimed Darius Slay yesterday also. Before we give our predictions, a couple of these comments. Where do I want to start? I'd also Brett Eclipse says, I'd also like to point out that Jalen is not the only one having bad games. Dak didn't do great last night. Stafford threw 2 picks to open the game last week. Lamar had 2 turnovers and no touchdowns last week. Josh Allen just came off of a loss to a backup. Yeah, like there's a possibility that in the AFC, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen are not in the playoffs. Like, who would have thought that coming into the year? So again, it's not just Jalen, and Jalen is like, and as Brett Eclipse says, also, despite however bad we feel about Jalen Hurts' performance this year, he's still on pace to throw for 27 TDs, 2 picks, 3,500 passing yards, and that doesn't include the rushing touchdowns. So he is still doing. He's still doing fine. Like he's doing Jalen Hurts things, which is something that I believe is very underappreciated in this NFL. We started this season where there was this raging debate of, is Jalen Hurts a top 5 quarterback, blah, 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 blah.
At the end of the day, the biggest thing that matters is, do you win? Can you win when it matters? And Jalen Hurts has proven that. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's stats.
It's very rare he's the reason that they lose. It does happen, but it's very rare that when they lose a game, it's because Jalen Hurts had a bad game.
Yeah, you can go back and point out reasons to why he may have been a reason that they lost, but you can never say Jalen Hurts was, you're never going to say someone's 100% of the reason, but you're never going to say Jalen Hurts was the majority of the reason that they lost in a situation. Obviously, you look back at the Bears game, there's a lot of plays that he may have missed, but there's a lot more outside of Jalen Hurts that just wasn't working and just didn't work properly. But I agree with you. I'm not one to worry about rankings and where, because no matter what, at the end of the day, rankings are going to be strictly based on what someone puts up statistically, not what they do as far as wins go. It goes back to the Eli Manning debate, and should he be a Hall of Famer or should he not with 2 Super Bowls, blah, blah, blah. Same situation. Do you care about winning and winning when it matters, or do you care about the statistics of the quarterbacks that are in front of you? Because you can sit there and be like, Joe Burrow's an amazing quarterback or Josh Allen's an amazing quarterback, but the reality is they haven't won Super Bowls and they can't win when it matters.
Burrow has at least been to a Super Bowl, and Eli Manning, I think his record is like literally 500. He has the same amount of wins as he has losses. All right, prediction time, Connor. Who you got? Before you give me. We're both 6-6 coming into this game, so go ahead.
We used to be able to put faith in me being wrong and you being right, but I guess we can't do that anymore. I'm going with the Eagles, 24-21. I don't think this is going to be like a crazy high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a battle of who's going to dominate, time of possession and who can spark a random big play here and there. And I'm going with the Eagles. I'm going to trust that they're going to go. I mean, they've gone, 4 wins, 2 losses, 4 wins, 2 losses. I trust that, with the loss for the Cowboys, that they're going to take that as a bit of something to drive them to just drop that magic number lower than what it currently is. I'm going 24-21 Eagles.
I'm playing a game here. I'm going Chargers 24-17. I want to lose this. So, I picked Dallas to win yesterday and they lost. Thank God. So I'm hoping that, I'm going 24-17 Chargers. It's going to suck. It's going to be another game where we're sitting there. These night games are ridiculous. I'm getting tired of night games.
Brett Eclipses, I think it's very possible both teams score less than 18. I very much feel like this could be one of those games where everyone's moaning and groaning because it's the ugliest game they ever see, but it's because it's probably a very defensive battle and it's not predicated on what people like to see in today's NFL. But there's a world where I can see it being like, 17-14 or some ugly score like that. But that's solely based on what we see from both of these offenses and these defenses.
Adam's explanation says 24 for the Eagles. A pick 6, Connor? That's funny. Yeah, I got 24-17 Chargers. You have 24-21 Eagles. Obviously, I want the Eagles to win. I'm trying to play a little game here. We'll see if it works. All right. The Eagles, our magic number is 3 to win the NFC East, to become the first back-to-back champions in the NFC East in over 20 years, since the 2001 through 2004 Eagles. Thank you all for tuning into this week's edition of the Kelly Green Hour. As always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHarrell54. And follow the Eagles Pinpool Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get your podcasts at Eagles Pinpool Network. Eagles Chargers Monday Night Football, the only game in town. It's also, they're doing a Monster Inc. thing too. If you have kids and you want them to kind of get into the football, that might be interesting to watch on ESPN. I think it's on ESPN too, maybe. Could be wrong. But yes, we will be back on Tuesday with a review. Hopefully it's a victory green hour, but who the hell knows? Can't predict anymore these days. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you all for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.
Fly, Eagles, fly.